Hello everyone. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for canceling my wedding after my fiancé insisted we split all finances? I, 28M, and my fiancé, 30M, have both been dating for around 2 years. Coming from a culture that didn't approve of same-sex unions, I never envisioned myself marrying and starting a family, so I was ecstatic when my fiancé proposed to me a few months ago. However, post his proposal, our relationship dynamics changed quickly in a lot of aspects, one such aspect being finances. Previously, we would both pay alternatively on dates, etc. There would be days when he would pay and spoil me, and there would be days where I would pay and treat him. This was never something that we talked about, but we were both comfortable with this arrangement and it never caused any issues. However, after the proposal, we started talking about buying a house, moving in together, and starting a family. During this conversation, he made it clear that he wants all finances going into the joint account to be split evenly. Now, this would ordinarily not be a point of concern for me if it weren't for the fact that our pay grades varied significantly. I am not comfortable sharing our real salaries, so I am going to give hypothetical numbers to explain the situation. For example, let's say I make around $5,000 a month, but he makes $20K. That's quite a significant difference of pay grades. With the 50-50 proposal he made, if I were to contribute $2K a month, for example, to our joint account, that's 40% of my income. Whereas for him, the $2K is just 10% of his income. I told him that this is not fair and will put a burden on my personal income and savings. It's not an equal division if the amount is the same for both of us, as I will clearly be losing a bigger chunk of my salary. I told him that for it to be equitable, either I too should be allowed to contribute 10% of my salary, i.e., $500. Or he should also contribute 40% of his salary equals $8,000. He said that this is crazy, that I am being unfair, unreasonable, and weird by trying to make him pay more into our joint account. We tried speaking over it multiple times, but it always ended up in an argument. His friends and family too went nuts when they got to know of this. They called me many things, including a gold digger, and accused me of trying to freeload off of him. I am aware that our pay grades and lifestyles are different, but it was never really a problem up until now, and we loved each other regardless. But now I am starting to feel like his friends and family, who are all well off, has always looked down on me, and it's all coming out now. My fiancé has not budged either, and in every conversation we try to have, he has made it clear he reflects the sentiments of his friends and family, and believes I am trying to get away with contributing less to our lives together to live off of him. These accusations and endless arguments have been extremely hurtful to me, so I ultimately decided to call off our wedding, as I don't intend to live with someone who looks down on me and buys into the narrative of his closed ones when they called me a literal leech. I don't really think I was being unreasonable when I said that dividing by a certain percentage makes more sense than keeping a fixed amount, given the drastic difference in our earnings. Am I the bad person? What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for refusing to take my ex back but accepting my fiancé's kids? With updates. My ex-husband, let's call him Frank, and I got married deeply in love. After a while, I found out I couldn't have children. Frank wanted kids, and he told me he didn't want to leave me, but also wanted to have a child with someone else. I couldn't accept that. Later, I found out he had gotten a woman from his workplace pregnant. He told me he didn't want to divorce me and still wanted to be with me, but I couldn't stay. Despite his resistance, I divorced him, and he married the mother of his child. This was 2 years ago. Now, I'm with someone new. Let's call him Mark. Mark is kind, understanding, and has been a great support system for me after everything with Frank. I love him deeply. He has 2 sons from his previous marriage, ages 3 and 5. They stay with him every other weekend and see him regularly during the week. He's a great dad, and I admire that about him. Mark and I recently decided to get married, and I'm really happy about it. But ever since Frank found out, he has been trying to contact me. Today, he showed up outside my work. He accused me of being a hypocrite, accepting Mark's kids, but refusing to accept his. He said that all he ever wanted was to build a life with me and grow old together, and that I was being unfair for not accepting him under the same circumstances. Logically, I see why he thinks it's the same situation, but it doesn't feel the same. The thought of Frank and his child still hurts me, yet I don't feel the same way about Mark and his kids. Frank insists it's the same, but is it? So AITA? Update. Wow, I didn't expect to receive this much support. Thank you all so much. I wanted to address a few things that came up in the comments. Surgery was not an option for me. We consulted multiple doctors, and in the end, we had to accept that I wouldn't be able to have children. That time was especially difficult for me, and Frank was my biggest source of support. Adoption was also off the table because Frank didn't want it. He wanted biological children. He told me, I don't want to raise someone else's child. I was the one who first suggested divorce back then, but he swore he would never leave me. He even said, it will always be just the two of us until the end. And I believed him. Frank and I met in high school and were together for 10 years. I think that's why he knows exactly how to get to me. After our conversation today, I started doubting myself. I even felt like I was the one at fault. Thank you all for helping me see things from my perspective again. I feel much more certain now. Update 2. I wanted to clarify a few things that kept coming up in the comments. When we divorced, I blocked Frank everywhere. However, he still hears about my life because my cousin is married to his best friend. I no longer speak to my cousin because, after the divorce, she defended Frank and insisted that he loved me. Unfortunately, some things just don't stay private within families. As for Frank's marriage, I know for a fact that he only got married due to pressure from his mother. She had already told him to divorce me and remarry as soon as she found out I couldn't have children. We never got along. She was one of those mothers who are possessive of their sons. Regarding surrogacy, that was never an option for us. The one thing Frank and I fully agreed on was that a child should have the right to know their biological parents. We both believed it would be unethical to take that away from them before they were even born. The irony of Frank suddenly caring about ethics when he cheated is not lost on me. Now, about how Frank managed to mess with my head, he told me that Mark never had to make the kind of choice he did. That Mark was never put in a position where he had to pick between being with me and having biological children. He claimed that if Mark had been in his place, he would have made the same decision he did. And honestly, for a moment, that made me stop and think. That's how the manipulation started. He made me question myself, and in the end, I felt guilty. I'm so glad I wrote all of this here because it's helped me see things clearly. Thank you all again for your support. Also, I talked to Mark about everything, and he got very angry. He's mad that I spoke to Frank, and I think he's right to be. I've decided to apply for a position at Mark's company. It just feels like a healthier option moving forward. Some people suggested I should tell Frank's wife about all this, but I have no interest in doing so. If they get divorced, he'll just become even more of a problem for me. It's better for everyone if he stays married. What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for canceling an Airbnb after the host ignored me for 5 days and then getting blamed for costing her money? I booked an Airbnb for April 2nd to 5th. I first messaged the host, Alex, on March 17th with a couple of questions about the stay. After multiple days with no response, I got nervous since the trip was coming up and I didn't want to be stuck scrambling for a place last minute. By March 22nd, after 5 days of silence, I reached out to Airbnb support to see what my options were. Airbnb automatically gave Alex 72 hours to respond. When she still didn't, the booking was canceled. I found another place and moved on, assuming she just wasn't an active host. Fast forward to today, she finally messaged me after the cancellation and was upset. She claimed my booking never should have gone through because those dates were previously blocked, then blamed me for canceling and said I cost her a fee and blocked other potential bookings. I explained the situation politely, but she kept going, making passive-aggressive remarks like sounds like I dodged a bullet. I responded by pointing out that she had 5 full days to reply before I ever contacted Airbnb, and Airbnb's own policy gave her another 3 days before canceling. This wasn't some impulsive decision on my part, it was a lack of communication on hers. Her final message basically implied that she had been on a vacation herself, had been fully booked for months, and that this situation had taught her a lesson. It felt sarcastic, like she was blaming me for messing up her schedule when, in reality, she had plenty of time to respond but didn't. At this point, I'm asking Airbnb to block her from messaging me because I don't see why she's still reaching out after everything was handled. Also, for any Airbnb hosts, does anyone know what this fee she's talking about could actually be? I don't see how she'd be charged for me canceling after she ignored my messages for nearly a week. So, am I the bad person for canceling after she ignored me for 5 days and indirectly causing her to lose money? Or is this just a consequence of her lack of communication? You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.